control. Politicians and celebrities make deals behind closed doors, promises broken, and their income soars. Hidden agendas run the grand parade. In the circus, choose a masquerade. Believe me, I wouldn't lie. I've been given money, power, and fame to keep you in line.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about populations and China, and then I'll add some conspiracies in there. So, China has a population crisis, and they are, let's see, what are the stats? Its birth rates are tanking, 20% decrease in marriages to just 6.1 million, which is a 20% decrease from last year, not like 20 years ago, 20% less marriages in 1 year. Okay, this is a huge decline. So why do we think the young people are delaying marriages? Well, some theories are that urban housing costs 20 times more than the average income. I don't know about what it is here right now, but I know that when I was younger, it would usually be around 1 year's salary, or maybe like 1 year and a half salary would be the price of your house, right? I know I'm really old and that sounds crazy to the kids, but like, that's how it used to be. So like 20 times more is absolutely insane. Then we have childcare. Prices are through the roof. So because of that, people are just going to prioritize money. They're just going to prioritize careers over children. So the government says they're freaking out. I'll get to that later, because there's a shrinking workforce, economic trouble. So they are starting to give out these policies to kind of encourage people to get married and have children. So to boost marriage, China in 2024 proposed a new law to let couples register marriages anywhere, not just their hometown. So I guess like back in the day, they had to go to wherever they were born, and they were like kind of like tied to that city or province. So they could only do like legal stuff and census stuff when they went back to that place to register. So this creates like an unnecessary burden. You have to like go travel if you've moved away for work, or if you've lived away for like 20 years and then you get married, you have to go all the way back to do the paperwork. So people are less likely to do it. They're going to delay it, and delaying the paperwork means you're delaying the marriage, means you're delaying babies. So they're like, let's get rid of this red tape, which shouldn't have been there, to be honest. It should not have been there, and make it a little bit easier, right? And some regions are offering cash. Oh, wow. Get this, $140. Wow. What are you going to do with that? 140 US. So like whatever it transfers. If your bride is 25 years old or younger, this is going to encourage younger weddings. Okay. Whatever. So then they're also trying to promote affordable weddings and shared parenting to ditch, like, they had these crazy bride prices apparently. So like, because there are still more women than men, guys would have to pay thousands of dollars or have like exorbitant, what's it called? Weddings or whatever, to kind of like pay to get married to these brides. So think of that. So they're trying to discourage expensive weddings and paying for a bride, right? But when they implemented these propaganda tools or whatever they're using, it just really didn't work, because the women had the power. So why would they accept that? And you can't get them to like accept less. Plus the wedding things, that's a status symbol in a lot of countries, especially China. So families will have big, crazy weddings to show status and show, look how wonderful my son is to be able to afford a bride and this beautiful wedding and blah, blah, blah. So this is like a big thing. And it's not just the people getting married, it's the families. It's It's a display of status and power and wealth for the families. So that they really couldn't get rid of that. So, and then we have some villages tried to implement a bachelor tax. So it transfers to about $111 a month if you're a single guy until you get married, right? So there was a lot of pushback, so they couldn't do that, obviously. But, they're throwing out things to see what sticks. And then since 2021, China's divorce laws included a 30-day cooling off period for couples who mutually agreed to split. So let's say you both went in and said, we're going to get a divorce, whatever. So you had to wait a month after you applied. And then during that time, you had to apply again a month later. And a lot of times people wouldn't do that. So it actually dropped divorce rates down 70%. But then 2024 saw 2.6 million splits. So that means the initial effect of making them do these extra steps faded away. And women criticized it, obviously, because they said they hate it because you could be trapped in a bad marriage and DV, all that stuff. Women's rights, yada, yada. So whatever. Then property division became another hot topic. So since 2011, premarital property like house stays with the buyer, often the husband. So many women think this is unfair, blah, blah, blah. And a law in 2023 forces the spouses to disclose joint assets. And if true, that could protect men's assets, but spark more feminist backlash. So, okay, I think here, if you come in with a house, whether it's the guy or the girl, you keep that house. That was premarital property. So I guess they had to split even if it was premarital. But the other thing was a lot of the reasons, because there's way more single men and way less women. In order to get married, the men would have to come presenting a house and money, usually to pay for the wedding and whatever. They'd have to show a lot of money and assets and stuff like that in order to attract a female, because they don't want to get married. So if you can't really say, like when you say, okay, look, you can, if you're a guy, okay, you're doing all this, the parents are usually helping you purchase a home. They usually start when the child is young. So like you have a son and you're immediately putting money away to buy him a house so that he can someday get a bride, right? So this is part of like what they use to attract the women. So now when they take that away, the women who really don't want to get married anyways, there's no more financial incentive. There's no more benefit. So that's not really going to encourage them to get married. Now here, you don't get that. If you've already had the house before you get married, you don't split that. It's only anything acquired after marriage. So it's weird that China had that, but whatever. So then we have child custody shifting, with joint custody becoming the default. And this is to stabilize family. But women, of course, because of feminism, are complaining because, women like to move away and start a new life and get away from the ex-spouse, take the children away from them and stuff like that. So this can make it a little bit harder for that. So the real issue are the insane housing costs, job insecurity. There's a lot of propaganda, of course, same as here, about like how, don't trust men, don't get married to men, blah, 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 don't have children with men, blah, 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 all this stuff. The same propaganda that we have here, they have there. So all because of China's one-child policy and the great gender imbalance that's still over there. It's making it very messy and clashing with traditional expectations. So let's think a little bit bigger. If China, the US, or any country really wants more babies, they need positive, fair policies that do not feel like pressure. So these are my ideas. Not all of them are going to be good, but if we don't talk about having better ideas, then we can't implement better ideas. So what I want to do is just talk about some ideas, and let's see if any of these would make sense to implement, because what they have now doesn't make any sense and is not going to increase babies at all. You can't just say, oh, whatever. Thank you. No, I am not. Okay, so the first one could be subsidizing daycare and preschool for children, right? That's $10,000 to $20,000 a year in the US. And in Sweden in the 1970s, they helped with childcare cost. So that eases the stress, encourage families. But of course, the pitfalls of this would be higher costs and probably like a public-private partnership for daycares and stuff like that. So that could get a little bit sticky. But studies suggest 5 to 10% fertility rate increase if they were to cover childcare costs, right? That's a pretty big, substantial increase. So something to consider. Then we can have early marriage tax credits, giving something like $3,000 a year to couples who marry before the age of 30, renewable for 5 years if you have a child. So Singapore's baby bonus, which they have for a while, shows that this technique does work. It reduces the fear of commitment. It pushes young love to commit, not waiting to become richer or whatever. And a lot of times what women will do is they'll wait, because women are like little fear objects. So they're like looking for like dangers in society and stuff like that. So what they'll do is they'll wait to see who's going to be successful because they're too scared by the media, uncertainty, the economy, all that stuff. They're too scared to pick a guy and settle down unless that they have proof that he's going to be successful. So this is the real heart of the baby collapse, because if you're so scared that you go like, statistically, I can't trust someone that I know young to actually be successful and be able to get a good job, support a family. And now we have technology and AI taking away so many jobs. They're saying something crazy like 70% of jobs are going to be gone. And then you have AI. Mark Zuckerberg said something like in 5 to 10 years, they will have surgeons replaced by AI robots, surgeons. So what jobs are going to be left for us? There's so much uncertainty. So women are like, I can't have a kid if I don't have certainty about the future. And without that certainty, I'm going to wait. And then the longer that they wait, the older that they get, and the less likely they are to get married, and the less likely they are to have children. And if they do, it's a big mess. All right. So let's see. An early marriage tax credit could boost it to like a 3 to 5% marriage rate boost based on other similar incentives in other countries. Okay. Next, we have housing grants for young families. This is a big one because housing is one of the biggest expenses, offering $50,000 to $150,000 home grants for couples under 35 with children. So the US GI Bill post World War II and China's China's housing crisis needs something like this, right? It signals support for families and wanting to create good, strong families in the future. And this makes people less stressed out and more likely to have families, right? And that could raise births by as much as 7%. Similar to something Singapore did. So we already know that can work. So something they can do. Okay. Baby bonds for newborns. Now, that would be something that the governments have done in the past. Like I think there's something in the UK called the UK's Child Trust Fund. And they were talking about doing $1,000 per newborn into a savings account for education or housing that they can get at the age of 18. So that can increase fertility about 2 to 3% based on some sort of like incentives to have children. They just need incentives. You need to have something. If there's so much fear and uncertainty and AI taking your jobs and women are scared of men and men are scared of women, we need something to stimulate people to want to do this. Next, we have paid paternity leave, a guaranteed 12-month paid leave, at least 80% of your salary, shared by the parents. So Norway has a policy like this. So this can ease work family stress. The first year of a child's life is very labor intensive, draining, crazy. So if parents can take off work so that they can help each other with that time, you can reduce postpartum depression, which means more births. If women are not like the sole alone, because the problem with this modern world is that women give birth and then they are alone, locked up with no one to talk to but a screaming infant. And then we have postpartum depression. Then we have vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And without help, without extended families over helping with the children, women really go nuts. So if we can have something to help that, because we don't have grandparents if we don't get married and have children young. The grandparents need help. So then you have infants that need help, grandparents that need help at the same time. So this makes people nuts. All right. Then we can have something like a fidelity tax deduction, right? So we all know infidelity breeds marriage and family problems like nothing else. The only reason why you should be getting married is to have children. And the only reason why you should be wanting to have children is to give them a functioning two-parent household without drama and mental problems for the children. So what's suggested is a $2,000 a year to couples married 5 years or more with no infidelity records. Now, this has to be verified somehow. So in medieval Europe, right, there was something called shame cheating, and it discouraged cheating with financial loss. So the pitfalls are, of course, privacy concerns, it's voluntary opt-in, and it could cut divorce rates by 2 to 4%, which would stabilize families. And also, it could discourage people who want to cheat from ruining children's lives. So we can get them out of the marriage and procreation dating pool. Let's get rid of those people. So, and that's for both men and women that like to cheat. They should not be having kids. All right. Then we can have an education debt forgiveness for young parents. So forgive $10,000 in student loans per child for parents under 35. In the US, $1.7 trillion of student loan debt delays marriage, right? And to speed this up and okay, whatever. So the pitfalls, budget strain, prioritizes high debt regions. So they're suggesting about a 4 to 6% marriage rate boost per debt relief studies. Now, I think it's going to be more. I really think that student loan debt is the greatest debt, especially in this country. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. $10,000 relief. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but like most of my friends have like $100,000 in debt, and I think that's going to get even higher. But even still, any sort of relief really can help people and encourage it. So 4 to 6% at least, I think. Okay, then we have fertility treatment coverage. Now, I'm skeptical about this one, but this was something that was suggested, and it is to fund IVF for couples under 40, right? Israel does this, and it shows that it works. 10 to 15% of couples will face infertility because of all the poisons in the freaking world. And this can empower young families, but of course, this is going to cost a lot of money. Cycles can be like ongoing. So what they do is they suggest capping cycles to 3 cycles. If you cannot get a baby in 3 cycles, because this is very expensive, you're done. That's all we're going to pay for. But this can increase fertility 3 to 5%, as per Israel's diet data. So that's a great thing. All right. National family holidays. Holidays. We do not have freaking holidays in this stupid country. They're taking them away. They're saying that like, we don't like Christopher Columbus. There goes your holiday. We don't like this, whatever. There goes your holiday. It's just stealing time that should be spent with family by not celebrating things and not giving people a freaking break to even know their family and their freaking kids. So create holidays with family festivals. Japan has Children's Day to make young families, have something to do, something to look forward to. And this helps fight delayed marriages by hyping the youth up that you want to get married, to go to this cool festival with your kids and have a lot of fun. And it doesn't seem forced and it's not very preachy. And that culturally, they show 1 to 2% shift towards marriage. So holidays, holidays, holidays. Let's do that. All right. The next one is media campaigns for fidelity and early marriage. All right. We gotta fund TV shows with influencers showing very happy young marriages. No freaking cheatings. Like, everybody's like good. Show the people who are cheating and have a terrible outcome. Scare them off. Just be like, actually, no. That's what we've been doing for this so long. Everything's cheating corn. So, like, let's get rid of that. Let's stop showing cheating. Let's focus on happy people. Let's just focus on what we want. Let's stop looking at what we're afraid of and focus on what we want. What we want is happy families, no cheating, good, sustainable families. All right. So in the 50s, the US media actually worked on this, and it actually helped with fighting infidelity and delays in marriages. So we used to do this, and then we stopped, and we went the complete opposite way, and now we are here. Anyways, so backlash. It could seem a little pushy, but if we use authentic stories, it can give people hope. Impact: 2 to 4% raise in marriages per propaganda studies, which is fun. Hey, 2 to 4. I think it's going to be more. I remember watching, like, old sitcoms, whatever. Patty Duke. What's the other one? Dick Van Dyke. Whatever. All those things, and they all had good relationships and marriages, and you saw them fight, but not like fight like today, which is really toxic. But you saw healthy arguments, disagreements, resolutions, and making up, and a joyful situation, which, when people don't have that at home, being able to watch that in the media can give them a model to replicate in their own lives, being a protective force. All right. Next, school curriculum on relationships. Teach teens about healthy love and marrying in their 20s. In China in 2024, love education. It builds skills. It helps them establish and find people with shared values, right? The pitfalls: people resist to, like, indoctrination, and they're like, focus on skills and blah, 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 whatever. But the impact: a 3% early marriage boost per educational trials. I think that's worth considering. Things like, hey guys, this is how you find someone to marry, not just to bone. Right? This is the difference. This is someone that's for now, and this is someone that's forever. And this is how you be someone that's forever versus how you ruin yourself and be someone for now. Right? So teaching that in schools, and I mean, 3% I think is a low end, but okay. Celebrity endorsements for young families, right? Celebrities are notorious for promoting divorce and gold digging and all the toxic things in the culture that destroy children and marriage and families, right? But if we paid them to do good things, like talk about how the good parts of marriage and family and whatever, make young families hip, not talk about cheating, and not talking about delaying marriage to look for a wealthy person, just like focus on building up together when you're young instead of all this inauthenticity. That could be a 2 to 3% cultural shift per celebrity campaign data that we have. Then we have community matchmaking for young singles. So funding dating events under 35 young people, focusing on shared goals, like China's 2024 platforms. They found it fought loneliness and gave them good peer matches. So the pitfalls: a low turnout, right? But the impact was a 4 to 5% marriage rate hike. So even though not that many people would participate, 4 to 5% hike. per matchmaking studies. All right. So, anti-infidelity public campaigns, right? Run ads on cheating's emotional toll with counseling hotlines. Let's take it back to a little of that puritanical shaming. It deters infidelity via stigma, which we need a little more in this country, and I guess China should use it too. Pitfalls. You have to balance, I guess, shame with everybody getting mad, especially the women. But the impact, 2 to 3% divorce rate drop. All right, then we have multi-generational housing promotion. This is a big one in my opinion. This is a huge thing we could do. Tax breaks for living with grandparents. Tax breaks and maybe like some subsidies for renovations to add another room. Make it like whatever, easy for grandma and grandpa to come move in to help with the child rearing. That's an amazing thing. And we also know that grandparents will live longer if they're exposed to their grandchildren every day, and they'll be healthier. They'll be more able to move around. They're less likely to break something, a hip or whatever. And it just makes everybody healthier, and it makes the children healthier, right? So if mom and dad are fighting, you still have grandma and or grandpa there to deal with the children, get them away from any sort of toxic things going on. Multi-generational housing. Yes. Okay. They're saying 3 to 4% fertility boost. I think it will be way more. Okay. Parenting mentorship programs. Pair young parents with older parents that are mentors. Like we used to have village elders. We don't have that now. So we have to finagle it and make it ourselves. So this could help birth rates by an additional 2%, and it offers support for young families, helps them deal with, young family conflicts and stuff like that. Okay, positive aging narratives. Promotes active grandparent stories to ease aging fears. China's 22% of the population is over 60, and this scares the youth. So it makes them be like, oh, I don't want to have a kid that's just going to have to somehow like take care of like all these aging people. So that could be a 1 to 2% fertility uptick. All right. Wealth gap marriage penalties. So a lot of the things that are going on over there are happening here too. So gold digging is very encouraged, right? So you have people who they wait until the guy becomes wealthy and then they want to marry him. The problem with this is that 99% of the women who are like, I'll wait for a wealthy guy, the wealthy guy never comes. Just because you have a few women that get there doesn't mean that this is common. It's still not common. Most of the time, you're not going to get one, right? And women are very delusional about what they can and cannot attract and actually lock down. So we need to do something to discourage gold digging, right? So they're suggesting a tax of 5% of assets for marriages with a 15+ year age gap, right? Historically, okay, whatever, forget about that. Pitfalls, enforcement issues, people would get mad, especially guys are like, I worked my whole life to get old and now you're gonna punish me for marriage. It's just like, come on, dude, just get married. Get married when you're young, because why are younger women marrying older men? They're not marrying them for them. They're marrying for the assets. Why is it that when you remove the ability for women to get assets, that they do not marry older men? So let's add that. I think instead of doing a tax, we're not taxing the older men. I think that's a silly thing that they came up with. This is how I would switch it. I would say, we make sure if you marry someone who's rich before you married them, you do not get access to a percentage of what they make after you get married, right? maybe we'll have like a standard. What's your standard salary, projected salary? We'll estimate that before the marriage, and maybe you can get that if there's a dissolution. But no, not this. I get to marry rich and then I get like everything. No. If he passes away, fine. But if you want to be there for 2-3 years and then get your money and go, so that you can probably do the same thing, because that's usually what women do. They marry the older, wealthy guy, wait for, like the time limit that they can go and get all the assets, and then they'll get like these little sugar baby boys, and the cycle continues. But of course, women will not marry them. That's the difference. Men will marry younger women, but women will not marry younger men. They do not want to share assets unless they have an ironclad prenup. So get rid of any financial incentives for a younger woman marrying an older dude with money. I think we should do that. They're saying a 2 to 3%. I say that would get rid of it completely. Because how many people actually like you for you? Now you're going to know. It's going to be hard, but you're going to know. All right. Ooh, or actually, no. Let me think of okay. Yeah, they might try to off you. Okay. So maybe you do want to pay them off, so at least you'll survive. I don't know. This is tough, guys, because they're gonna. Okay, yeah. There's a lot to think here. Like, there's a lot of downstream effects that we have to work out. So I don't know how we're gonna work out. What if they just straight up off you? Then they get all your money. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we should tax the guy with money because, oh my gosh, or maybe, I don't know. We have to work on that one, but we need to do something about that. Okay. All right. Child-friendly urban design. Mandate parks and playgrounds. Singapore did this. It really helps. Safe spaces for families. And we need to make sure like homeless people and creepy single men are not allowed there. We need to have some sort of like barriers and some sort of like security to just make sure, oh, you're a family, you can come in. You're a creep by yourself. Okay, you can't come in. This is a family park. This isn't a single creep park. Let's move along. Go to like, the bench or like whatever, the subway. But we need to mandate places in cities every certain like, I don't know, miles or whatever, so that families can go. And we just don't have enough parks, especially where I live. I know we don't have any parks. And if we do, it's a piece of grass with some shelters. There's no playground. There's nothing to do. There's no amenities. Pretty lame. All right. And that increased birth rate by 2 to 3% per urban studies. And that was in Singapore. All right. Next is flexible education options. Subsidizing homeschooling for young parents. Up to 10% in the US post-COVID started homeschooling. And it reduced stress. Now people are concerned about the standards, but what are the standards in school? There's like none. So that increased fertility by 2% per education flexibility data. So I think that is a good way. We need to subsidize women to stay home and homeschool their children. So a tax credit or something we need to do to encourage women to stay home, because I do not like the pay for childcare and you go to work. I don't believe women should be working when they have children that need them either to homeschool or to take care of them or from emotional. Like, no, we don't need that. And there's a lot of violence in schools. There's a lot of meeting people you shouldn't be meeting. There's a lot of influences that you don't want your children to have. And I feel like a more structured, like maybe just have, I don't know, 1 or 2 days a week where you can like take your children to like a school setting for like maybe some fun classes or like extracurricular activities, maybe, like sports or something like that, so they can get their energy out and meet other children. And it will be more like focus on socializing and fun skills so that they can socialize, because the sit down and shut up model is not socializing. They literally have 5 minutes between classes and maybe 10 to 20 minutes where they can talk to only the people sitting directly around them in like lunchtime, and they're getting rid of PE, they're getting rid of all these sports and stuff like that. So it's not really a social, there's no more social argument for children to go to school. And you can't learn for 8 hours. So tops 2 hours. So the rest is just babysitting and detrimental, to be honest. All right. All right. Corporate fidelity benefits, right? So require firms to offer counseling and bonuses, yearly bonuses for stable marriages. It rewards loyalty, and it fights cheating and infidelity and stuff like that. Now, there is a cost. And it should be, maybe we should like offer like subsidies to smaller businesses, right? But that could increase, actually, that will decrease divorce rates 2 to 3%. All right. National Fertility Research Fund, right? Invest $1 billion into infertility causes. So this is like what RFK wants to do with like the autism and stuff like that. Like, what's the causes? And then can we address the causes so that we can, and I'm telling you, the causes are generally stress, aging, financial instability, stress from financial instability, stress about the future, stress about it. Stress stops fertility. I don't know why this is like hard to understand. Also, comfort behaviors like overeating, having like lots of sugar, not moving, not getting out of your house, not getting sunshine, all these things will decrease fertility. And people who are depressed, uneasy about the future, do these activities, which further put them in the hole. All right. So there, I figured it out. Now give me my... Okay, so that will be a 1 to 2% birth rate increase. So I figured it out for you guys. There you go. Social credit for early families. This is specifically, I think, for China, right? Because they have a social credit score. We have a credit score. So maybe we should just up the credit score if we do this. All right. Award points for marrying before 30 and for having children. Redeemable for housing. China's social credit system seems to be something that's particularly useful for something like this, and it can help fight delays in marriages and pitfalls and fears about marriages. So that could increase marriage 4 to 6% per incentive trials. Okay. Gamified family incentives. Apps. We can use apps rewarding marriage or kids with discounts. Tapping into a gamification love, right? The culture loves this stuff, like dopamine hits. Oh my God, if I have one more children, we'll be able to go to Disney World. You know, we'll get a Disney whatever family pass for like 50% off. Let's have that one more kid. We're Disney people, you know, like stuff like that. People like that shit. All right. So we can do that. Gamify that. All right. That's a 2 to 3% fertility increase. Next, we have long-term family contracts offering 20-year bonds for 2+ kids before 35. This would guarantee childcare funds like Singapore's baby bonus. It can fight marriage delays and having children delays. Now, the pitfalls could be we still have commitment fears, right? But that could be an increase of 3 to 5% birth rates. There you go. All right. So why are we trying to push these? We have to reduce financial fear. We have to reduce debt, like housing costs, student loan debts, all that stuff. Anyways. Okay. Now I wanted to talk about why I think, oh, here we go. Let's talk about conspiracy theories. Is this a fake panic by design? All right, so we already know that they want to decrease the population, right? Replace workers with AI. An AI bot can work 24/7 without complaining or asking for like safe working conditions. And we know that that's what they want. They want to cut human labor and move it to AI, robots and stuff like that. And we do know that the one-child policy was a deliberate setup to shrink China's population by the US. So are these governments really stupid enough to do everything in order to create a population decline if they didn't actually want a population decline? Because it seems like everywhere you look, it's encouraging people and scaring people out of having children, out of getting married, out of having relationships. It's making people scared of the opposite sex. So let's see. We already know that universal child care subsidies would work and increase like a 5 to 10% boom. But we have like examples like in Sweden and stuff like that. Why haven't we done that? If we know that's the case, why is it like that's the one thing that they won't talk about, right? It seems like very suspect. Housing grants for young family, we know based in Singapore, that works, yet no talk of that. Just things like let's lower the age of consent. So maybe like what, a 12-year-old gets pregnant? I mean, this is like insanity. So no paid parental leave. Let's not talk about that, right? Let's just like make everything. Anyways, so do you guys think that all of these things are like so bad because they secretly don't want us to have kids? They want to create like a fake, I don't know what you would call it, like a fake global crisis when it's really all by design. And like, does communism even work if there are no people? Like, if there's no people left, like, I don't know. So, okay, why am I wrong? Oh my gosh. They are the people who run the countries. They are the people who run the countries. That's all. Yeah, I mean, let's just take a step back, right? Okay, I turn on the TV, every show I see is about people delaying marriage or getting a divorce or cheating on their spouse or ruining their child's life or some sort of traumatic thing or fear of the future or the world's about to end or AI is coming to get ya or some sort of panic and stress, right? We know that that affects the physiology of human beings. We know that they have been doing research on how to psyop the population, how to use propaganda against the population. And we already know that they use fear to control us, because if we're afraid, we get away from the frontal lobe and we go into like survival mode. And when we're there, we're very easy to like control because we'll go look to authority. Okay, what does the authority say? The authority says, don't get married and have kids because you'll lose all your money, or don't get married and have kids because you'll get cheated on, or don't get married and have kids because then you'll become sick and overweight because your spouse won't help you, and then they'll leave you for someone who's younger and fitter, or whatever. The whole fear thing, it's on both sides. Like, the women are told don't become, like, literally they're being told don't be the first wife because he's just going to cheat on you and leave you after you've had his children and you get sick and autoimmune diseases because he doesn't help you with the children. And then he's going to cheat on you with a secretary who's like 30 years younger. And she's not going to need to have kids because he gets the kids from you. And then he goes on to live a happy life traveling, which he never took you traveling because no, you had to stay with the kids. So you couldn't go travel. So he had to go with the young 20-year-old secretary to travel the world. Like, these are the things that they're feeding people, right? This is what they're telling women. So now women are going, oh, I'm not going to be the first wife. I'll wait till he has kids with the dumb one, right? And then when he's made all his money and he's rich and now he wants to travel the world and his kids are older, then I'm going to come in and then I'm just going to live a comfortable, easy life and travel and blah, blah, blah. That's what women are doing. That's what they're thinking. That's what they're being told to think. This is not like a weird thing to come to the conclusion of. There's literally tons of like gold digger channels on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere teaching women to do these things. Like, don't be the dumb one. Don't be the one that ruins her body for children. Don't be that one. Don't be the one who marries a guy at your same age because he's going to leave you for the younger girl. Don't be that. So, and then the same thing for guys. Don't get married because she's going to cheat on you with her boss or blah, 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 blah. I don't watch TV shows, so it's only from YouTube. I don't watch them. I see titles. I know what's going on. I talk to women. No, it's weird. I mean, okay. Well, if women couldn't read and think, they wouldn't be scaring other women to not get married with all these crazy situations. So maybe, who knows, right? We don't know. All right, let's see. It's trying to, what? Yes, this is true. What is Limperius talking about? Oh, he's not here. I mean, this is true. If we banned birth control, the crazy outcome of that is that women won't be able to work as much. And then they will depend on men again. The thing about birth control is, like it or not, women work on a 28 or so day cycle. Men are 24 hours. Women get on birth control, which is essentially, they were originally used to castrate, right? So most birth controls were used to castrate people, right? Or animals or whatever, or predators, whatever. So they just moved it over to call it birth control. But really, that's what these things are. They completely shut down your endocrine system. When your endocrine system is shut down, you don't get the highs and the lows, right? But you seem to maintain a steady low if you're a woman, but it doesn't go up and down that much. And also like women, you'll notice like they don't get that, I don't know, interested in guys as much. They either get hyper fixated where they become like OnlyFans skanks, or they have no interest in guys. And then they're just kind of like, I don't feel anything. And then they can't bond. So it can completely destroy your libido, or it can make it go sky high where you're doing crazy, risky behaviors that are not conducive to being a wife and mother and having a family or anything like that. So birth control kind of seems like ground zero for all this. But then the other thing is, if women don't have birth control, they can't really work, because what job is going to give them a week off when they're going through their cycle and they're acting a little nuts? If you can't completely stop their cycle, they're just not going to work that well. That's why notoriously young women would just stay home with the kids, and they would not usually go back into the workforce until the kids were older and they were like in menopause or something like that. Then they would get like little part-time jobs to help out with the family. But we take all of that away when we put them on birth control young. So I don't know. And I don't know if they would learn to keep. Yeah. So I don't know. What did Nancy say? No. Anyways. So yeah, I don't know if we can go back now. But I know that if we stopped birth control, women would want to do stuff younger. Obviously, they would not have the hormones blocked, so they would actually feel things, and they'd be able to bond via sexual intercourse, right? So if you can't bond because you're on birth control, you can go one way, but if you can, then you'll be likely to be like, you know what, I'm gonna get with this guy, even though he's not successful and rich now. We're both young. I'll get with him, I'll marry him, and then, you know, we'll just do life together, right? I don't know. Yes, we can, of course, but half the women in this country are gonna like be like, no, don't ban it, because then I can't make my money, because like they're so addicted to working now. And I think in the back of their mind, most women know that there's a very small percentage of women that are healthy enough to work even during their fertile years, because the rest of them, they do go nuts and they would probably be fired, be escorted out of a building if they had their PMS on company time. So I don't know. I don't know if we'd be able to work as much or have our own businesses and all those things. So it's just like, I don't know what's going to go on. But if they stay on it, then they're less likely to be able to have children. And it also can make them more mentally ill over time because you're blocking your hormones. You're not going through your cycles normally. The menstrual, whatever part is part of your health. It's not real when you're in birth control. So you don't know how healthy you are. You're not detoxing. Oh yeah, it's a big detox. So if you're not detoxing your hormones, by the time you go, okay, now I've been on it for 10 years. Now I'm going to have my kids. You're going to detox suddenly. That's when we have autoimmune conditions pop up, right? It's a lot. Okay. Yeah, I don't believe women can do both. I do not believe it. So that's the thing. They want to do that with the other. They want to do both. That's the problem, because the culture told them that you can have it all, that you can be both. You can be really good at being a mom by not having anything to do with your children all day. You are a great mom by having nothing to do with your children all day. That's a psyop. Go you. You can do it. I mean, you have no idea what your kids are doing and who they're exposed to in school or whatever, but you can do it, right? It's all a lie, because you can't do it. You can only do one thing. You can either be a good mom or a good worker. You can do both, but never at the same point in your life. So when you're young, you should be a good mom. And when you're old, if you want to go to work to help the family, or you have like free time and, going crazy, yeah, go do it in menopause, after menopause, when you're done, when your kids are grown. If you have kids when you're 20, by the time you're like 35 or whatever, they're gone. And then, you can either be like, I'm gonna be a grandma, I'm gonna help my kids. So like, they don't have as much stress. So my kids won't be as stressed off like as I was when I was young with a baby. Or you can be a selfish brat and go to work. Or if you need to, because, hey, your husband gets old and he can't work anymore, then you can go to work. I mean, everything is about choices and sacrifices. And this idea that you can do everything perfectly is just not true. So anyways, that is all I have for today, you guys. Thank you for hanging out, and get to the comments and let me know what you think we can do to encourage more babies. And if you think it's really not something that the governments of the world really want, because they're just going to replace us with AI anyways. So they don't want us to have babies. Anyways, see you all next time. Have a great day. Bye. Go rewatch it. It was fun. Like, share, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Play all my stuff. Like, find a playlist of me, open it in another tab. You can put it on mute. I need like watch hours so I can someday get monetized. That's the goal. One day. Also, the troll roast will be Saturday. I don't know if Damon will be there. So if anyone wants to come on for like 5 minutes to troll me or to troll somebody else, you are welcome. It's like 2 to 3 minutes per troll. Come up with think of it like a comedy roast type of thing. You get your 2 to 3 minutes to troll someone. And then they can respond if they want, or they can just be like, all right, whatever. And we move on to the next person. So that's what we're going to do. It's just for fun. Please no fifis. Please no crying. Please no emotions. It's not so serious, guys. See you guys later. Bye.
Television screens bright and loud, sell your dreams, make you proud. Pop the bubble, see the cage you're in. Start the revolution, let the truth begin. Wake up, they're feeding lies. Control media's got you hypnotized. Trust authority, they'll take your soul. Break the chains, find your own control. It's hard.